So this is a really exciting event. This event that you are at is Essential Dating and Relationship Skills. So my name, for those of you who are new, I'm Alicia.
I'm Erwan.
We have been working with both singles and couples for a combined 40 years. Erwan 25 years, me 15 years. We support singles and couples in having incredible romantic relationships. We call it an eternal date. The kind of relationship that gets better over time, intimately, sexually, spiritually, all of it. Anything you want to say about your past, about your development, your education?
Yes. Yeah. I needed it. That's what I want to say. I needed it. If you saw my parents' relationship, that I have a 15-year relationship with a human being, is amazing. That it's an amazing, gorgeous woman like that. I mean, that was not in the cards. That was not going to happen. My parents' relationship was on the fritz before I was born. They came over to this country for whatever reasons they decided to. The relationship imploded right at the beginning. The state of New York got involved. I bounced back and forth between their apartments. They wouldn't talk to each other, so I went up the elevator. I mean, if you read the divorce report, it was horrible. And then after all that, it got worse, okay? Then she left the country. She went back to France. I saw her a handful of times after that. I don't want to get too deep on you right off the bat, but for a little boy, his mother leaving, like, that's, give me a break, right? All right. So somehow I survived all that, and then it got worse, right? Then he had a stroke, left him severely handicapped. He couldn't talk, could barely walk. She died. Then I developed an obsessive, then it got worse after that, okay? I developed an obsessive compulsive disorder. I couldn't function. They took me out of school. How many of you have seen The Aviator, the movie The Aviator? Just a few of us? All right. He had the disorder I had. Do you remember the room that he lived in with all the weird papers all over the thing? Like, that was my room. Okay, so now you're clear. The guy, we've come to an event, and they're leading me this crazy, the crazy relationship evening. So, but the long and short of it is that I really did need to address all that. I needed to address it psychologically. I needed to address it spiritually. I needed to address it in terms of my life and my practices and learning and all of it. And because I needed it so much, I devoted my whole life to it. Got a psychology degree. Alicia also has a psychology degree. Got into Eastern spirituality, lived in a Zen monastery, got into yoga, became director of a yoga ashram that's actually just about half a mile from here, the Yoga Society of San Francisco. Taught transformational courses for the world's largest transformational organization. Like, I dove in full tilt boogie, eventually, how do they say, put a shingle, what do you say, put
it on your shingle?
How does that say, you put a
hang
on shingle, yeah, right, I did something with a shingle, and put my name on it and said, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So that's really what we're covering tonight, and it just really is my pleasure to be with you all, so, yeah, I'm excited.
Yes. These skills apply to everybody. You can be like single. You could be married for 50 years and everything in between, and these skills will apply to you. Let's begin. Okay, and the way we're going to do this, the way that we're going to go through these skills is we're going to share some things about us and our relationship, and also some people we've worked with anonymously. So you'll get to know us better, and we can really illustrate the skills that we're presenting tonight. So where do we start? We start with seduction.
Yeah, let's start with seduction. Let's start right with the beginning. Attraction. Right? Attraction, being attractive, and being attracted. What's the essence of being attractive and being attracted? So let me ask you, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot for a moment. What do you think? What's the essence of being attractive? What's the most important part, or one of the most important parts of being attractive? What do you think? Looks, okay, looks are important. People, it is important. It's important. We don't want to underestimate that one, but it's not as important as people think, actually, which is fortunate for most of us. Yeah.
Having compatible personalities, so personalities.
Okay, so compatible personalities, right? Like, our personalities are important. You know, do we get along? Do we fit together? Do we match? That's important. Yeah. Yeah.
The way you carry yourself.
The way you carry yourself, right? How do you comport yourself? How do you behave, right? Yeah.
Like positivity and it's like a positive outlook.
Okay, positivity, positive outlook, right? I think you opened a lot that way. It's a bright world. Yeah, okay, good, yeah. Yeah, please.
That you believe you're attractive?
That you believe you're attractive, and that's a really big one, right? That you believe that the inner critic is not dominating the scene, but you're kind of on your own side there. You got your own back, if you will. Isn't it interesting sometimes how we don't have our own back, right? You're attracted to somebody, and sometimes, we sabotage to not do that, to believe you're attracted. Yeah.
Owning your energy, whether feminine or masculine, just owning it.
Yeah, owning your energy, whichever one it is, masculine or feminine, so that there really is some polarity. Right? This is very important. Some polarity, some energy, some difference. Doesn't matter, man, woman, this, that, all the rest of that. But you do want to have some difference. Right? Whether it's two women, two guys, man and woman, whatever, you want to have something like a battery. Has polarity, a positive pole and negative pole, so energy can flow. That's very important. Everything everybody said is true, and there's one that was sort of in the background of some of the things that we said, and that's your presence, or your being. Your presence is actually the most attractive thing about you, the essence of you, even before we separate into feminine, masculine like that. That's inherently attractive. If you walk into a situation with your honey of 5 years, or a party like we're going to have in an hour, or a bar, or whatever, and you're present, people feel that. It has like a palpable feeling, and it allows that polarity to really manifest in a particular way. People really like being with people who are present. They can feel it. They can sense it. It sort of scratches a particular itch that we have as human beings for somebody really being with us and us getting to be with somebody else. And then when you do it with somebody you've got polarity, then it's like, woo! It's a lot of fun. So that's the essence of it. In the pleasure course, we cover a lot about that, including what gets in the way of that, which is what we call your relationship blueprint. Okay? It's kind of like conditioning. Right? And what does it take to really be in contact with that, day in, day out, to really practice that, to really live that? That's what I got out of living in a Zen monastery, some practice with that, some groundedness with that. By the way, I love Zen, totally my cornerstone. And the problem was, sex in the Zen monastery were no. So, I opted for Alicia.
And the Zen is not gone.
And the Zen is not, isn't that interesting,
thing.
right?
Yes.
Buddha is so
everywhere,
yeah. Right? Isn't that interesting, right? The Zen master was married also, actually. All right, so he was probably having sex.
Yeah, I bet.
I think he had a child. So.
That happened at least
must
once,
have happened. All right, so attraction. So that's the essence of it. A simple, important, easy skill to do. There's many different parts of seduction and attraction. I'm just going to focus on one. And that is how to tell if somebody's interested in you. How do you tell if somebody's interested in you? Okay? Without putting everything at risk. The tender heart and finding out, are you interested in me? How do you find out really quickly if somebody's interested in you? Okay? Well, it's the equivalent, I said in the course, of having a text bubble above somebody's head, whether they're interested. Like, how much would you pay for that app? So how much would you pay for that app? Well, $1 gazillion. Well, I'll tell you just how to do it. How you do it is you interact with the person that you're interested in, in a way that forces them to react to you. You interact with them in a way that forces them to react to you. And you get a very quick read if they're interested, right? I'm at a party, I don't know this beautiful woman here, so I'm walking by, I go, hi.
Hey.
Is she interested?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Yes, she is. She is interested. All right. That's interesting. All right. Women are usually not like, yeah, oh my God. Guys are like, yeah, I'm interested. Women are usually a little more like relaxed about it. So now you go and you do this tiny little investment. Hi. Is she interested? No. No. Now sometimes you can't get a read, right? Hi.
Hey.
Right? So what do? Those of you in the course.
Do it again.
Do it again, right? Hey.
Hey.
Oh, it's got complex. Now there's interest and disinterest and turn on and anger and like 6 things going on. So you respond to like, wow, you are complex.
Thank you.
Can you explain this to me?
Thank you. I feel so seen.
All right. Well, great. All right. Well, explain what just happened to me. If you're a guy, it's a good idea to ask a woman to explain things. Right? This is a wise and rarely used move.
So what's really great about what Erwan did was, like he said, it was very low investment. You know, he didn't come over and be like, hi, and like sit down and like, let me buy you a drink. And then if I have some kind of cold response, he's kind of trapped on the stool, isn't he? So he didn't put himself in that position, but he was friendly, he was direct. Hey, then when he wasn't quite sure where I was at, he asked again, he said something charming. You know, it's very little investment. This works in relationship too, by the way. This is like critical for when you're single and you're kind of like at a party or at a bar, at the coffee shop, and you're kind of like, I like this person, how am I going to find out? But it works equally well when you're with your relationship partner. I mean, sometimes Erwan will be in one part of the house and I'm in another part of the house, and I'll start to feel like, God, I want to like have some fun right now. Where's Erwan? And then I'll go and maybe he's on his computer and I'll just be like, hey. I haven't jumped into his lap and like needed him to receive me. It's a friendly, and in that case, and as is usual, he responded. Oh, okay, good. I can get a little closer. Because sometimes we don't even try because we're afraid of rejection. So this is like the way to combat that.
It's a very minimal investment. I like that. We're usually afraid of rejection.
Yes.
A very easy gesture, very small gesture. It's flirting. People like that. That's the essence of flirting. It's the most important part of flirting. Okay? Now, the other thing, I said I would say 1 for attraction, but I'll say 2. The other one is physical escalation. Right? So you want to be physically escalating the interaction right from the beginning. Right? Where we fall short as human beings is we overuse the head center. Right? The head center gets overused. You might be attracted to somebody, talk to them about, God forbid, politics or work. You know, no, don't want to do that. Everybody's like, oh, I did that. You don't want to do that. Yeah, good. Oh, yeah, Eric's good. Yeah. You're like, I'm freezing, everybody else is hot. So, all right. So, physical escalation. The essence of physical escalation, there's 2 steps to it. One is touching. You want to start with a friendly touch. Okay? Friendly touch by most people is received well. Hey, awesome, I like the drink you're drinking. Okay? From there, if that's going well, then you can escalate to more of a, oh, nice shirt kind of touch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, God, I love this fabric.
I love you. Yeah. So physically escalating, don't be afraid, make it physical. If you're at somebody asked this question during the course, if you're at a party, boom, 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 and you can't even hear the other person, all the better, so that you're actually doing it with your body. Because that's actually what works for romance and creates the chemistry and the turn on. You want to start that right from the beginning. Don't be afraid to use that. Brings the body in, makes it energetic, makes it fun.
And then it makes it so, for example, if you're out and you want to meet someone new and you start a conversation, it's not like you talk for 20 minutes or 25 minutes before before you break that touch barrier. Like, just do that right away in a friendly way. Like, hey, nice to meet you, you know, or hey, high five, awesome. So you've already done that. So then, if things start to go well and you're talking, it's not like a far move to like, oh, you know, it's not this nothing to everything.
So give each person on the side of you on a pat of their back, tell them you are awesome.
You're awesome.
You're awesome, man. Good. All right. Now, at first, everyone was like, I don't know. But look, everybody is smiling. I don't see anybody not smiling. Oh, one person over there is not smiling. But everybody is smiling. It works. It is being nice and physical and friendly and present tends to be against the rules of the inner critic. Okay, tends to be against the rules of the part of our psychology, the part of our relationship blueprint that's like, don't go there, don't take risks, they're not so good, you know, all that kind of stuff. You just want to eject that one. That one ain't doing you any good. And really stick with the, hey, awesome, good to see you. Mm-hmm. Like really putting it out there. But if it's a risky situation, just put it out there, you know, put it out there enough so they have to react, but not so much that you're taking a huge risk. Okay? Now, say one more thing about it. I'm saying one thing, I'm saying three things. Physical escalation, how to create chemistry. I've been doing this 25 years, I mentioned. People's number one complaint nowadays, didn't used to be their number one complaint, is their number one complaint now, is a lack of chemistry. Right? How you resolve the lack of chemistry is not being in all of the psychological structures and distracted by those. That's why in the pleasure course, half of it is psychological. Half of it is distinguishing your relationship blueprint, the incorporated parents, the inner child. I'm from New York, I don't know if this is cursing or not, the pissing contest between the inner parent and the inner child, all that stuff. You know, not getting wrapped up in that is how you really land in your body, presence, body, like that. When you've got that, there is no lack of chemistry. Right? We've been together 15 years. I feel the chemistry. Yeah. It just exists, right? It just exists if we're not in our head. Okay? That is simple to say, and it's a big piece of work. Okay, so, you know, we're not in the school of like, hey, you know, you're going to do pleasure course on magic, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's not true. Okay, it's a big piece of work. It's not a molehill. It's really climbing Mount Everest. Maybe worth it. You may want to do that. Pleasure course is a huge start to that. And then we've got all kinds of stuff in Mexico and Maui and all kinds of weekly programs, all the rest of that. But it is a very intense piece of work to do that. But it's worth it. What is your presence worth? Right? What is your romantic life worth? What is being out of our heads and having chemistry worth? Right? All right.
So that's seduction. So for those of you who are new, we went through the different stages of romantic relationship and then went through the skills necessary to have those stages succeed. So we just talked about seduction, which is kind of not really a stage, but it's like the way into a romantic relationship. The first stage, so where are you? You tell me. After seduction, what's the next stage? Dating. That's right. So you're dating. You're kind of, ooh, you know, you're interested. You start hanging out. You start going out together. The key skills for this stage, so critical, is having fun. Having fun. Now, some of us, we're like really good at having fun, right? Like we like to go to parties and go meet people and go do all kinds of fun stuff, but then others of us are kind of like, tell me your deepest fears and the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And do you want kids and marriage? I need to know this right now. Let's talk about that. So this is just appropriate for later, but not for dating. So you want to like have fun, and you want to learn how to turn the person on. Now here is this cool thing that Erwan, you learned. Erwan had this professor at UC Santa Cruz, who I think the class was like psychology of love. Like who would not take that class? Hello. And he did this research that said that exciting experiences create chemistry and turn on. And there was this study where there was this like rickety, narrow, super scary bridge over this ravine, like super scary, right? And his research showed that people who met while they were crossing that bridge were really attracted to each other. Like that fun, that excitement produced a good time. You know, because like, let's try this, okay? So I'm like, la la la, you know, I'm here in Santa Cruz, and I don't know him. He's also in Santa Cruz, and like the bridge was so narrow. You're like, oh, your adrenaline's rushing. Oh, someone's walking towards me. Oh, you kind of have to like brush past them a little bit. Ooh. Instant fun, right? So the key is to do fun, exciting things when you are dating a person.
It's, fun is poo-pooed, but fun is really important. And it's really important for the dating stage of relationships, lightening up, having fun, having a good time. It's not only important for the dating stage of a relationship, it's important for all the stages of a relationship. We actually want to carry that forth so that the honeymoon period is not just in the beginning of the relationship, but so that it continues and even increases. That's why Alicia and I, we throw 2 parties per month, one at our place in the Outer Sunset and one here. Like, we're all about having fun.
All about having fun. Bottom line, don't go to a political lecture for your first date. Read to your second or your third. Just don't do it. There's time for that later. Now the other skill that's really important, like shit, there's so many political lectures in the Bay Area. Again, okay? All right. Now the other really key skill during dating is focusing on the woman's desire. The woman or the feminine in the relationship. So it can be 2 men, 2 women, a man and a woman. Optimally, there's someone in kind of a masculine role and someone in a feminine role. This is like day 2 of the pleasure course. But what I'm going to say about this now is that focusing on the woman's or the feminine desire brings heat into the situation. And there's a lot to contend with. Like, as women, we're kind of like, my desire? What do I even want? Like, is it okay to have desires? Can I ask for them? Is this all right? You know, we really contend with these things. And then as men, sometimes men deal with actually knowing what that is. Like, what does she want? How do I find that out? I don't know. That's why this is a skill to learn, to thrive in the dating stage.
And it's not a compromise. You know, I'm not at all compromised in my relationship at all. It's just smart. Right? Just smart. You know, what she wants really turns the thing on, so there's this polarity, there's this heat, there's this energy, and then, you know, I get to be the hero, and I'm not going to go into the explicit details of my sex life, but trust me, it's pretty damn good.
So those are the skills that have the dating stage succeed. So then, those of you who are just in the course, what happens next after dating? Where are you at? What's the next stage?
Going steady.
Going steady. I know someone said going steady, boyfriend, girlfriend, or girlfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend, going steady. Like, this is kind of your person, right? So there's a particular skill that takes you from dating into this realm of going steady. I'm just going to use going steady tonight.
Yeah.
Yes. What could that skill be?
Look, yeah, this is a good question. What's the mood, right? Now, there's the mood of dating, right? If it goes optimally, we call it new and exciting. It's got that newness, that freshness, that excitement. We were just sort of putting the bridge and the whole 9 yards, right? Then there's the middle game of relationship, going steady, boyfriend, girlfriend, right? So a whole new quality is added. We don't recommend throwing out all the new and exciting. We recommend bringing that in. But I like Alicia's question. What is the new quality that's added into the relationship? What do we add in once we start to get to know the person? What is that? What would we call that? What do you say? Yeah. Comfort. Okay, great. Yeah, it's got a quality of comfort to it. Yeah. Yeah. Because what do you see for yourself? Most of us have been in this stage of relationship. Yeah. Intimacy. Yeah. Comfort. Intimacy. Connection. Yeah. Vulnerability, that's the word we use for it, but it's, you know, comfort, intimacy, connection. Vulnerability, you really know the person. Vulnerability is required to get into the middle game of relationships. Some people are good at just having fun, but then you got to be vulnerable, and it's like, no way, right? Before I met Alicia, I was like that. I was like, fun. Let's have fun. Let's only have fun. Let's not be vulnerable. Vulnerability, no. Fun, yes. Okay? She was like, vulnerability, yes. Fun, no.
Exactly. I learned first. I was like, after not very long, was like, where's this going? We need to have a serious conversation right now. We really need to. That was not fun at all. No, not fun. Luckily, he was so gracious and honest about it. He didn't kind of get uncomfortable and start being like, He was more like, wow, like I'm really open to all of that. And right now, like, I think that was it's just too soon. Let's have some fun. Let's just get to know each other. And I was like, okay, I think I can do that. I was having so much fun with him. I did not want to give that up, first of all. And I just decided to take a risk and have some fun. It actually worked out.
Eventually, I had to take a risk and be vulnerable and open up. And like, from my history, it's a miracle that happened. And it's a very important part of the relationship. I'll share a little bit more about that towards the end of the evening. It did happen.
Yes. So vulnerability. So once you're in that stage, there's a really key skill, totally key, communication. Communication has two parts to it. It's like two sides of the same coin. What's one element of communication? Somebody in the course? Honesty.
Right.
That's right. So if you want to communicate, honesty, obviously, yes. Now what's the second part?
For the communication to be good, for it to feel good, there's got to be honesty, right? Sometimes people leave that out. And what's the other one? Yeah.
Approval.
Right.
Being friendly. Like for the communication to get across, you want to be friendly about it, right? Some of us are really good at the friendly part, but then we don't really say what we're thinking. And then some of us are really good at saying what we're thinking, but maybe we could use a little kind of niceness in there. I mean, before I got into this work and took the pleasure course, my communication looked like this.
That was her communication.
I didn't speak up at all. Clearly he should read my mind, right? And then when he didn't, it looked like, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Luckily, I got out of that and started to speak up, which was just so rewarding. I mean, Erwan's so responsive to what I want. And it's just worth it. It's worth it in that middle game of relationship to speak up and say what you want. So that's the first skill, communication. The second skill is a really fun one, sex education. Now, we all probably thought, sex education, 7th grade. It's not that sex education, although safe sex is very important. But what we mean by sex education is actually learning about each other's bodies, learning about pleasure, learning about what is orgasm, learning how to communicate. Now, why would sex education be in this stage? Why wouldn't it be in the first stage? Think about that. No.
That's the old Cheryl. That's the old Cheryl. Right?
Who has a guess? Why not learn about sex deliberately with each other? Why wouldn't it occur to you in the dating stage?
Everything's already hot.
Everything's already on.
Everything's so hot.
They're new.
New, novel. It's like hot. It's awesome. Then, as we all know, as relationships go on in time, they tend to lose the chemistry. As Erwan talked about earlier, that's like the number one complaint that we get. People who are in relationship, like they're awesome, but where's the passion? Where's the chemistry? There was this couple that we've been working with for 10 years, and they were both single when they came into our programs, and then they met and got together. And you know how in sex, some of us can be like, really like, still, kind of like a log, like so relaxed, but you're just kind of lying there.
Like, wake up.
Yeah, wake up. And then others of us can be like, okay, like you go here, and you go, I'm going to go here, and do this, and now we're going to do that, kind of like that. right? So this couple, he was sort of like that. You know, he was very like, let's go, let's do this, go fast, go fast. And she was like, ugh. It wasn't working. And through working with us, week after week, she learned to like come out and actually say something. She was like silent before. And she learned to like come out and ask for what she wanted and learn her own body and what she likes. And he learned to slow down and touch slowly and let her come out. And I mean, once they learned these skills, their sex life was hot and bright and magical. That's what sex education can do in the middle game of relationship.
And that's exactly why it's necessary in the middle game of relationship, so the relationship can keep reaching higher and higher peaks of not just intimacy and companionship, but turn on. You know, imagine that, being more and more turned on to somebody 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years into the relationship. You know, we haven't found a limit to how turned on somebody can be to their partner in romantic relationship. Now, sex education is a vulnerable thing to confront. Vulnerability is required. Communication, honesty, approval, vulnerable. Right? The third skill of the best friends and lovers, or middle game of relationship, going steady, is a really interesting one that sometimes doesn't occur to us, but it's actually very, very important, especially nowadays. And that's the skill of lifestyle design. Actually having our lives set up to support the relationship, that there's enough time to go ice skating and on some roller coasters and have some energy for some sex, right? Or throw some parties or hang out together or have some fun. In the beginning, people just kind of tend to make time for each other, and they don't see each other that much anyway, so it doesn't really require that much time. But in the middle game of relationship, you really want to design your life so that it supports the relationship. Like if you opened up your calendar, there'd actually be some time, some real space and time. As the relationship progresses, more and more of that is required. You know, we have a 20-month-old toddler. You know, for most people, there's a big decrease after the honeymoon period, getting into best friends and lovers, and then, you know, after marriage, sometimes there's a decrease, and then usually after people start a family, there's usually a very big decrease. It doesn't have to be that way for you. Even if it's been that way in the past, it doesn't have to be that way going forward. But it does actually take designing your life to support the relationship. You know, actually for the relationship to have the time and the space. It's interesting because we're all a smart bunch of people, but sometimes it just doesn't occur to people to actually do that. So in the pleasure course, we get into lifestyle design and how to structure your life and talk about advanced programs and all kinds of stuff, so that you can really have a life where your love life is really supported. For our life, all the most important areas of our life are really supported. We have relationship support. We have spiritual support. We have psychological support. I need the psychological support. But we, for all those important areas, we really do. And it makes all the difference. And it's just wonderful to have life designed that way. It's like being realistic about it, instead of like, oh, this is just going to sort of work out randomly. If you got on a tennis court and you never played tennis, would you expect to be Wimbledon ready? No, right? As far as I can tell, tennis is relatively easy compared to a relationship. Right? So, it tends to require that, and we don't like to be airy-fairy about it. We like to give people the real deal. Really, it's nice to have your life set up so you have the space and the time and the energy and the activities and the social environment for that, and mentor support, social circle support, calendar support, like that. So that's the middle game of relationship. What's required for going steady to get better and better instead of being the beginning of the end.
All right, so you're in the middle game of relationship. Now this may be, I don't know that we even named this, although it's sort of a trick question because it's what we're all about. What is that next stage of relationship? Those of you in the course. So we did dating, we did going steady. That's the going steady. An eternal date. A committed relationship, a soulmate relationship. It's not the final stage, like the end or something like that. It's definitely not the end, don't worry. That is the next stage of relationship. And the transition skill to get into that is really interesting. It's really interesting. Would you share what that is?
I will share what that is. It's spiritual development. The development of presence. We can't get into a soulmate relationship if we don't have contact with our soul. Actually requires spiritual development. That's why weddings, commitment ceremonies are usually officiated by somebody with some spiritual chops. You know, a priest or a rabbi or a New Age shaman. We said in the pleasure course this time nowadays,
Yes.
Somebody high on ayahuasca. Something. Right? You got somebody like somehow spiritual some way to really bring it into that new sphere. Now I was very lucky that I had lived in a Zen monastery and something had opened up for me there. I'll tell you what I learned there that later allowed, it was difficult to get into the vulnerable stage, but when it got time to get into an eternal date, I was really ready for that. Because I'd learned something in the Zen monastery. I'll tell you a story. I got to the Zen monastery, Green Dragon Temple in Marin. I got there, and the first morning, they woke me up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to meditation at 4:30 in the morning, which is nuts, which is totally crazy as far as I was concerned. And so I walk into this beautiful, large Zen meditation hall, and Buddha statues, and all these people in their black robes, and me wearing like jeans or whatever. And they basically didn't tell me what to do, and I just sort of found my way to my seat, and I sat there at 4:30 in the morning for 3 hours in 40-minute increments, and this is what it looked like. And after 10 minutes, I made a vow. I will never come back here again. I am escaping. I am leaving. Okay. So I went through the morning thing, and then I went to Jim Abrams, the guy who was managing the monks at that time. I said, "This is great, Zen, very cool, not for me." All right? And he asked me this really interesting question. He said, "Oh, were you in the Zen meditation?" It's like this weird koan, like mystical Zen thing that I didn't even understand, but somehow worked. He said, "Were you in the Zen meditation hall?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, good. Then you did it right. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine tomorrow." And I'm like, okay. All right. So I figure I do it one more day. I go back in. They wake me up at 4. Next morning, 4:30 in the morning. I go back in, 40-minute sitting periods. 10 minutes into it, looks like this. And then something happened. Something very interesting happened. And what he said came back into my mind. And the same thing was happening, and I felt the same way that I did the day before. But all of a sudden, I had all the room in the world for that experience. All of a sudden, I wasn't resisting that experience. I wasn't criticizing myself for having that experience or being tired. I was willing to feel all of those sensations that were going on, the whole 9 yards, the fatigue, the whole bit. But all of a sudden, there was something else that was there. There was these qualities of, in the Zen tradition, you would say Buddha. I'm from New York, I would just say these qualities of life, these qualities of being. All of a sudden, it was life. All of a sudden, there was presence. All of a sudden, there was love. All of a sudden, there was space. I had space to feel that way, regardless of how I felt. All of a sudden, there was peace. I wasn't resisting the experience. all of a sudden, interestingly enough, there started to be strength, which was really interesting. And I started to have some ability to actually sit upright there in that moment. And something happened. Didn't resolve all my psychological issues. But I had a spiritual awakening. I had a satori experience. And that experience was that it's not about things being a particular way. Realization, it's not about things being a particular way. We're just trying to make things a particular way. It's not about that at all. It's actually about having space for the way things are. Exactly the way that they are. And that served me so well when it became time to get married and get into a lifelong relationship and all the rest of that. Because, I have a lot of quirks. Alicia's got a few quirks too. Sometimes our quirks get together and it's like quirkiness exponential. But it was a very interesting thing. Like, I had space for that. So it wasn't inhibiting the turmoil. It wasn't inhibiting the communication. It wasn't inhibiting the love. It kind of added a certain character or certain spice to the relationship. So a soulmate relationship or an eternal date really meant a spacious relationship, an open relationship, an accepting relationship, instead of a relationship that needed to be a particular way. And then what followed up was the ways that I wanted the relationship to be, really the ways that she wanted the relationship to be. It actually started moving in that direction very rapidly when I wasn't trying to crowbar it into that. So that was spiritual development.
Yes. So that is the transition skill to get into an eternal date. Now, here are the skills that have that stage thrive. So the first one is commitment. Commitment, that's such a, oh my God, the C word, commitment. What I mean by commitment, we're going to share a little bit more about that in a little while, but essentially, commitment is going all in and going for it. Like, you are in, you are going for it, you're like, don't have your foot out the back door, you're in. Another skill is sexual expertise. So this is like sex education on steroids. This is like you have learned to give and receive pleasure together. You've learned about your orgasm and extended orgasm and how to create chemistry. And you can be counted on in a relationship to really bring that. Because so many things happen in relationship. There's family stuff and health stuff and jobs and all kinds of things. But sexual expertise means that you can be counted on to bring your attention back to your sex life, not let it fall by the wayside.
We did a demonstration of extended orgasm. Really, Alicia did a demonstration of extended orgasm. I was there to support.
You were there.
Right, my little finger. And in this room 3 weeks ago, and she can do that at will. Extended orgasm at will. Now I'll tell you a little secret. I haven't told anybody. Which is, we were having a disagreement before that happened. About half an hour before, we got into a disagreement. Then it was time to have extended orgasm. It's like, okay, great, let's go have extended orgasm.
And then, lo and behold, the disagreement was nowhere to be found at the end. That was nice.
Guys, when you can do that and support a woman in that, you live in a state of grace. You can make a lot of errors, and it's fine.
So that's sexual expertise in a nutshell. Now here's the third really special skill of an eternal date, which is the skill of cherishing. To cherish this person, gosh, it's just so easy to take people and things for granted, but a skill that has that long-term relationship really shine and bubble is just really cherishing and appreciating the person. Erwan and I have this practice of daily appreciations, so every day we tell each other 3 things we appreciate about each other. It could be mundane, or it could be really profound, but the thing I said the other day was we have a 20-month-old Aiden, as he mentioned, and Erwan does this thing where he has Daddy Aiden time, and he'll just come upstairs and take Aiden downstairs to our bedroom and yoga room, and I'm I don't know what they're doing. I hear cackling downstairs and blocks everywhere, and I'm what are they doing? So one day I go downstairs to find out what they were doing. And it turns out that Erwan was teaching Aiden how to dance. Okay, so I'm going to show you something because it is really, really cute. So there's Aiden. So everybody watch this. Everybody watch. point is, cherishing is a very important skill in a long-term relationship. It takes you far. So we're going to have you do an exercise now. And this is going to be like a paired sharing exercise. It's okay if you end up in a group of 3, but at least be in a pair. And you are going to share strengths, weaknesses, and questions that you have about the stages and skills of relationship as we've presented them tonight. So when it's your turn, you might be like, God, I am so good at commitment. Like, I'm really all in when I commit to something. But gosh, I'm like so shy about sex. Like, I feel like I can't communicate about sex. Like, I really want to learn more about that. Or like, God, I am so good at having fun. When it comes to time to have a deep conversation, like, I get a little shy. So you're just kind of taking inventory. There's no like judging yourself for good or bad or anything. You're looking for yourself.
My point is that going for it, you asked about vulnerability and so on. Life is magical if we go for what we want. It is risky. And tonight is that kind of night. If you were moved by what people shared or your goal, what you thought of what you wanted in a relationship, take advantage of the opportunity. Life is short. Don't wait. I thank my lucky stars that I did.